One thing that we thought we were going to do, or I should say, move to a new episode. One thing we said we were going to do is give the Nerds of the Old Republic Awards, and I got to keep these titles because Mike did a fantastic job. Let's start with the number ones and the Wesley Crushers. Favorite character / favorite episode. We'll go there.
Where's the bells?
They're in the box.
Oh, damn it.
We don't have the bells, or do we have the Australian guy today?
No, I didn't bring the Aussie guy. I'm
okay.
sorry.
I could just pretend and be really offensive, except for our Australian audience is some of our most loyal and consistent listeners, so thank you very much.
Hey, don't forget New Zealand.
New Zealand? Yes, New
They're
Zealand.
part of that subcontinent.
Australia.
Or continent.
Thank you.
Ah, there we go. All right, so we were belled up. All right, so what was the first award? The number one?
Number ones.
I order you to take a number two.
Yeah, so this is best character and best show, I think we said, right?
Character and episode.
So for me, I put Picard and Data in my earlier.
Son of a bitch.
I mean, I figured we all were gonna have them.
Oh no, I got a different one.
Okay, cool, but
He's got the 14th Lieutenant unnamed in the third episode.
In my earlier Star Trek years, I think it was definitely Data. I mean, an android. He's got a lot of appeal.
Brent Spiner's so good too.
And Brent Spiner's fucking. I've heard him on podcasts and shit. He's just a really interesting man. He's very talented. He's funny. But I think, and then later on it became Picard for all the reasons that we said. Patrick Stewart's just fucking brilliant. He's always a joy to watch. For episode, I said, this is not necessarily my absolute favorite, but it's one that I don't think a lot of people would pick. And I really like this one. I've rewatched this one a lot. It's called The Defector. It's from season 3, and it's where a Romulan admiral, is being chased. They find him being chased by, Romulan warbirds, and they rescue him, right? And he just pretends like he's not an admiral. He pretends like he's some little guy or whatever, and he's got information that the Romulans are building these bases and they're going to instigate a war. And nobody takes him seriously. So he finally reveals who he is. He's a big shot in the Romulan Empire, and he's actually defected to try to prevent a war. And he's got a little girl, and he doesn't want her to grow up.
I remember his little girl.
Yeah, and so they finally go and they find out it was all a setup from the Romulans to expose traitors. And there's this devastating moment where he says it was all for nothing, and then he commits suicide.
Yes.
It is a devastating episode. I love that one.
Well, they are so Russian KGB based in the whole all of that. Those guys, they're really fascinating because they're Vulcan basically, but they're emotional Vulcans. And what are emotions? Oh, they're terrible emotions, right?
Just terrible.
Yeah,
they're like the Sith of the Vulcan world.
Indeed. I was fascinated by that, the unification episodes when they had Spock come on, and because of course they live forever, so they can bring Leonard Nimoy, well, not forever, but for a long time. And they also had his dad, Sarek, on a couple of episodes, and that was always interesting because the Vulcans I always thought were super fascinating because they they had that whole suppressing their emotions, and but they would get really crazy once in a while, and they would get all horny and and Spock couldn't control it, and just they're a real fascinating people. And the idea that they had a split in the Romulans, Remus, Romulus, all that they always go to those little things, but it was just interesting that there was another race of the same beings basically, but they're so different now by separation. Yeah, it's just I don't know, it's cool. It's cool mythology,
right?
Sean, you want to give your characters and episode?
My number ones. My favorite episode is probably Cause and Effect. It's another temporal loop one. But one of the reasons I really like is because Kelsey Grammer plays a captain of an old starship on there.
Forgot about that.
And he's got the uniform that they wore in some of the original cast movies, which I thought was oh, that's super cool. Yeah. And it's a really neat episode. It's just, I can't remember exactly the full plot of it, but just, again, it's that whole idea that they're using time and just oh, we got to explain something to you. You're in this weird place, and it's Kelsey Grammer really is what sells it.
Kelsey Grammer.
And then the other one I mentioned earlier was Relics, and that's where they find Scotty. And I just thought it was super cool because it's a Dyson sphere, and it's Geordi is the best part about it is how LeVar Burton is that exasperated, shut up, you old man. It's we don't do shit like that anymore. And it's man, that's how I felt with my dad when I tried to teach him how to use a computer.
Yeah.
So I love that one. So those are a couple of my episodes. And then my favorite character, so I differ from you guys, is the Enterprise.
Look at that.
I do. And voiced by Majel, I'm pronouncing her first name wrong, Barrett. And just the fact that the Enterprise in a lot of episodes is a character, like it is probably my favorite part of the whole show, the whole series, is because it's like the coolest starship ever made. Even though it's designed like it's a fucking like one of those in uterine like sperm blocking things, whatever they call those. An IVD. I was thinking IED or IUD, not an IED. I was thinking IUD, whatever. It's like this weird ass design.
Yeah,
but it's so cool and it's so well thought out. And like so much of the show is just predicated on that ship. So
that's a great observation. Honestly, I love shit like that where setting is basically a character itself. Like Manhattan's one of my favorite movies, and the city is very much a character there. A great equivalent to this would be the Millennium Falcon in Star Wars.
Yeah, literally is a character.
Love this point.
The Enterprise it's got the holodeck. It's got everything, right? It's all. It's just cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go favorite character, Data, and partially because Picard would be cliche, but also because Mike already said it. And
no love for Riker. Wow.
No,
he's cool.
I think that he's cool, but like I guess I always saw myself more as I hoped I would be more of a Picard than a Riker.
Did you guys ever find that Jonathan Frakes' performance was like needlessly like bitchy sometimes?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Like he's just be like, and that's how it's going to be,
right,
Ensign. And it's like, there's no need for him to get so
there's times where he just says little things and he says it in a snotty way, and I don't even know if he meant it that way or if that's just how he talks. Like, there's like little things where he'll be like, stand up, like stern face, and he'll be like, yes, sir. And he'll turn around and walk out, and he's like, I think he just meant to say yes, sir. But he sounded like he was pissed.
Yeah. He was just ordering a hamburger from the replicator. What the fuck was that? Jesus. And then, driving off the Data thing, my favorite episode has got to be the episode where Data creates his daughter.
Oh, yeah.
So we were talking a lot about Data's like story arc, and in The Offspring, he creates Lal.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just flipping through episodes, and the second I saw the scene where he's standing in front of her, and she's in like it's not like medbay thing, but it's got like the stereotypical Next Generation panels around her, and she's just standing there, Android. Like, I immediately remembered that episode.
Didn't she have like a positronic brain malfunction or something like that?
Yeah, it ends sadly. Yes.
Yeah.
But if that's your favorite episode, it's all the more reason you should watch Picard. That's all I'm going to say.
All right, I get it. I mean, I just don't want to foot out another $5 a month for another streaming service. That's all it is.
Yeah, very true.
Got it and then share it.
Yeah, I mean, DVDs exist, right?
That's true.
Doesn't the library have these things?
Oh yeah, I think they do.
But yeah, no, I loved how it had a lot more humanity for Data, trying to find someone else. And what was it, the Sunian? Is that the name of the
Noonien Sung?
There we go. I just literally took the initials and flipped them. Noonien Sung, like the idea of someone driven to create such an artificial life that was so human-like, and then that life trying to recreate something that was so like itself was really moving. And then the whole, of course, because I don't like stories that end nicely, the fact that Lal had to go away.
It's also really a great testament to how great of an actor Brent Spiner is, because he plays Data. He plays his brother Lore. He plays the other Data that doesn't, I don't know what his name was. Like,
I remember Lore, because Lore had a fucked up positronic brain, and his emotions weren't right. But
his emotions were like, that was why Data doesn't have emotions, because Lore went awry.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he had another prototype or something like that comes up before. Yeah. And then he plays Noonien Sung. Yep. He plays like all of these people. So many, like, he's such a great character actor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's able to. I have more to say on Data later in the Trek Awards, so I'll actually hold off on that.
Okay. All right, so we are then to the Wesley Crushers, your worst character / episode.
So my Wesley Crusher, if I'm being honest, my Wesley Crusher award goes to Wesley Crusher.
Poor Will Wheaton.
Same here.
Will Wheaton is fucking awesome, by the way.
Yeah,
he is awesome now, but oh my god, the character was fucking terrible.
He admits it too.
Yeah,
he knows that character was poorly written.
But I didn't want to make my Wesley Crusher award for Wesley Crusher, because that's the obvious one. And Sean, I got the sense that you're not going to like my real Wesley Crusher award, because I gave it to Ro Laren. Ensign Ro. Yeah. I don't know why I don't dislike the character, but there's every once in a while there's a Ro episode, and I'm just like, oh fuck, it's a Ro episode. It takes all the wind out of it.
I see that. I think she was underdeveloped, underutilized. Like all the women characters on the show, it just wasn't the time yet in TV, I guess.
I agree. Yeah, and then my Wesley Crusher episode goes to a season 3 episode, as strong as season 3 was, called Up the Long Ladder.
Oh god,
terrible.
So they pick up these like the worst kind of like peasant Irish stereotype characters,
You thought the Rings of Power was bad.
Like they show up with animals and like a bale of hay, and the guy goes up to Captain Picard and literally his first words are like, "Even though I could be tanking you, Captain Picard," like it's just so like unnecessary and absurd, and I can't stand the episode. You have like the fiery Irish girl who's always.
And when is this record going to be betting me then?
Exactly. Oh my god!
Oh my god! It's just such an awful.
We've all asked that question, but like still, it's like don't say it.
What advanced human colonists are going to become 1800s rural Ireland? Like that's what they're going for. That's their ideal nirvana. Like what the fuck?
It's fucking
that's
absurd.
Gene Roddenberry. That's fucking Gene Roddenberry's original series thumbprint all over that. Oh, what's funny? Irish accents and farm animals. That'll get people going, oh, that's a fish out of water.
Right.
Fuck.
No, that was that gets my Wesley Crusher award for worst episode. What's that?
He was one of the writers on that episode. So
Roddenberry was?
Oh, yeah. It's very clear when Roddenberry, because it's always a pretty girl.
Right.
And it's always the, whatever.
Well, and they're always just a little bit more goofy and cockamamie.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. All right, Sean, you want to give us your Wesley Crushers?
My Wesley Crusher goes to Reggie Barclay.
Yeah.
That guy was such a sniveling fucking
I'm gonna have to
worm.
Google that one.
Reg.
Yeah.
The guy who he stutters, he's got no personality,
right.
He's on the holodeck, and he's such a badass because he doesn't have to deal with real people, and he's probably masturbating in the holodeck.
Yeah, yes, you would never ever find me in the holodeck.
Yeah.
That's disgusting and shit.
Yeah, but I mean, if you could sit there and fuck a holographic whatever, I mean...
Yeah, we'd all do it.
Yeah, we're all in there. Like, we're scheduling our regular holodeck breaks.
Reginald Barclay. Referred to as Reg.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be a genius, but he had like crippling social anxiety, and he was an obnoxious character. Yeah, that's a good pick.
I kind of remember him now. Yeah, that was a good pick.
And then my worst episode goes to Menage a Troy, which just encapsulates so much of what is wrong with The Next Generation. It's a Troy episode, which automatically puts it at the bottom, number one. Number two, it's a Troy's mother, Waxana. How the hell you pronounce that shit?
Waxana.
Oh, God. And that's played by Roddenberry's wife. So he's writing a role who's obnoxious for his own wife, who, again, it's like, oh, look, here's some cleavage, everybody. And, she's I don't know what the hell she's supposed to be, like some kind of like just like flippant whatever, and it's a Ferengi episode, and the Ferengi in The Next Generation,
oh my god,
they were redeemed by DS9, but the Ferengi in The Next Generation were mostly just garbage characters. Clowns, yes. And they're supposed to be the menacing like Klingons of that series, but they
early on they were envisioned as like the main, the Klingon, you said, the Klingon version. Yeah.
Right. But it's another abduction episode, and they've got to use their feminine wiles to get out of this, and it's just, it's so fucking terrible.
Yeah, that's a bad episode.
You know what? I literally am just a combination of both of your picks. So my Wesley Crusher is literally Wesley Crusher.
Poor Wes.
No, well, you know what? Poor Wes, like you said, the character was poorly written. Will Wheaton left because he said that he felt like that character and just being on that set was stifling his movie career, and I guess he was right.
To be fair, there were a couple of watchable Crusher, or
Wesley Crusher
episodes. The one with the game that everyone's playing when they put the visors on. That's a decent episode.
That was interesting.
But they're few and far between.
Yeah,
very.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then my least favorite episode is actually a Deanna Troi episode, early season 2. It's The Child, where she is impregnated by an alien and forced to carry this monster.
Space rape.
Yeah, like. What is this, a 1960s blaxploitation film? But
who wrote that episode, Adam?
Was it Gene Roddenberry?
I think, ding, 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 I think you're right.
Gene Roddenberry likes to force his female actresses into awkward conversations that they shouldn't have to have. Or maybe it was just the 90s.
Oh, I just wanted to experience what it was like to come out of your vagina, Mom. And it like just zips back those people. God. What the fuck was that?
Yeah.
Oh. Man.
Yeah, Space Alien. If any human actually remembered that experience, we wouldn't have more kids. It's got to be terrifying. So yeah, that was my least favorite episode. So we are on to the So-and-So is Admiral What's-His-Faces, best and worst guest or reoccurring characters.
All right, so I said I had more to say about this later. My best guest was David Warner as Gul Madred in Chain of Command, the one who interrogates and tortures Picard. He's a distinguished English stage actor, and he's on one hand he's very sophisticated and eloquent, articulate. philosophical even, but on the other hand, he is like so damn intimidating and menacing. And there's all these amazing moments where he's like talking lovingly to his daughter while Picard's like strapped to the thing naked and in pain. And he's like, humans don't, treat their children the way we do. And there's like, it gets into all of that, racism and whatever. And I just think that the character is such a perfect character for that role, and that actor does such a great job with that. Yeah. Best recurring, I hope I didn't take anybody's, because these ones are, I don't know, there's only a few to choose from. Colm Meaney is Miles O'Brien. I always like Miles O'Brien. He's
wait a minute. I thought we had best and worst recurring. No? Did I miss that?
I had best and I played it as best and worst guest / or recurring. So
you could do it either way. I'm loading up here. I'm getting them all in. So this was because David Warner was only in there once. Best recurring, I'm throwing in Colm Meaney.
Gotcha.
Yeah, as Miles O'Brien and John Delancey as Q. Obviously, he was, as you said before, he was enough said there. He was fucking genius. Yeah. And my worst recurring character is Lwaxana Troi. Who I think you eloquently also handled.
Yes. So what was the one that I missed? And it was best character on the cast or best recurring, like
I guess guest. So like Kelsey Grammer would have been a guest.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then recurring character would be
like Q or
somebody like that.
You didn't have to do both. No, these are just things you can talk about.
My best recurring character is Q.
Yeah.
I just John Delancey's awesome. I think he's hilarious. And then the worst reoccurring one I've got is Tasha Yar.
Oh my god!
And I mean like all of her like versions, because Tasha Yar herself was a shitty character, number one, except for the relationship with Data, because I always thought he's a fully functioning android. So is that like a dildo? Like anyway,
yep.
Anyway, so I thought her character was crap, and I like when basically the skin of evil kills her, or whatever that like tar thing was. Yeah. And then that thing was terrifying too, and like when they leave it behind, it's like. But very old Trek too, like that soundstage look to that world and everything. Anyway,
that was season 1.
So she was terrible, and then like when she came back as like half Romulan version of her daughter was terrible.
Right.
Which, by the way, how the hell do humans mate with other species on this? Because first of all, don't Romulans and Vulcans have like copper-based blood or something different, and it's like their blood is green?
That's why it's green.
There's just no way. It's
literally always oxidized.
Yeah. Fuck. Whatever. So that character is bad. It just
means that everybody's sterile when you do that.
Whenever Yar comes back in some whatever way, because Denise Crosby could not find that job she was trying to find outside of Star Trek, it just sucks.
Yeah.
End of rant.
Well, and they also find weird connections to her. There's an episode I happened to watch recently where her sister, it's a different actress, but it's like Yar's younger sister is, yeah. They couldn't let her go.
All right. So for my favorite, I tried to avoid what might be common picks just because I knew my other picks were pretty common. So I went with Dr. James Moriarty.
Good one.
From the holodeck.
Good one.
That is a good one. Yeah.
Always a fan of Sherlock Holmes, and I just thought it was cool that the holodeck, which I thought was just used for porn, spun off a sentient life that then became a villain. All because, again, all my favorite moments happen around Data.
Yeah.
Really, because that was,
Didn't they put him in like a cube at the end where it was like a simulation cube where he could live?
Yeah, he could just imagine he was living the whole time inside the
and then there's another episode a couple seasons later where he like breaks out of that thing and he reveals that he's been conscious for 4 years in it.
Yeah. So they like literally imprisoned a conscious being.
It's a real cool like Matrix-y type thing because they have Picard and I think Data go in to talk to him in the holodeck, and then they think they're leaving the holodeck, and like half of the episode goes by, and they can't understand why Moriarty has control of the ship.
Yeah.
But then they finally realize they're actually still in the holodeck. Yeah. It's a cool ass episode.
Yeah, the holodeck is a fucking interesting premise.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
For a lot of reasons.
For sure.
I got a point to make about that in a moment.
And then my least favorite, I did a deep dive. I just kind of did some Googling, like who are people's least favorites, and I ended up remembering this episode pretty vividly. But it's Alcar. So Alcar was a galaxy-renowned mediator who was siphoning the youth off of women to keep himself alive. And this was another one of those tropes where, like, this dude has lived for hundreds of years, and he keeps, like, sucking off of people's life force, dies in the episode, no repercussions. Like, they could have done, like, this deep dive, like, what important politicians did he murder? What sorts of, like, political machinations in the Senate? Did he, like, you know, stop trade embargoes from happening?
Whoa, George Lucas, slow down.
Yeah, no. You know, like, no effects, and the stage makeup was fucking awful. I could have done this with plaster of Paris and some friggin' horsehair.
That's
He
amazing.
looks awful. Like,
Some
later
of
on,
the
I'll show you the
aging
picture.
makeup they used to do was really bad.
Yeah, absolutely bad. So, Mike, you ready for your Warp 9s
Yes.
and Core breaches, the highs of the series and the lows?
Yeah, so a lot of mine we've already hit on. There are four lights is one. I am Locutus of Borg was another one. I said some of the whimsical Data moments. You mentioned Sherlock Holmes. I had that down here. One of my favorite fucking episodes ever is where he tries to date a crew member. Do you remember this one? They actually have a relationship.
What Data does?
Yeah, Data does. And she starts to feel like, he's not trying hard enough. So he tries to emulate the way humans act in relationships. And it's fucking hilarious. She comes home and he, like, sits down and he's like, so how was your day? And, like, she talks and he's like, it's wonderful. And then she's like, Data, you're acting weird. And he's like, And he walks away and he turns around and he's like, perhaps it is you who are acting weird.
Yes.
But that shit, there's one where he tries to, like, intervene because Miles O'Brien and his wife are having, like, marital problems. And just him trying to, he completely misses the point of all the shit they say. And so some of those are my favorite. And then this is not from the show, but from one of the movies, another classic Picard line. The line must be drawn here, this far, no further. Great fucking moment. So those are my Warp 9s. Are we doing all Warp 9s and then Core breaches, or are we doing...
I figured we could each kind of keep the pattern we've been going, so if you want to give your Core
Yeah.
breaches
So, Sean, you're not going to like this based on what you just said. The death of Tasha Yar was a low point for me because it was so fucking pointless.
Oh, no, I do agree with you.
because that was just Tasha
She
Yar.
gets killed by, like, a puddle of oil.
Yeah.
For
is
no
this thing?
reason. Like, he tells her to stop and she walks and he just kills her.
But I like it because it's so ridiculous.
Because it gets rid of her.
And she's gone now.
But they referenced that in that episode we talked about earlier. The one that Quentin Tarantino likes.
Yeah.
And where, Guinan's like, I can't tell you how you died because we never met. Yesterday's Enterprise. But she goes, I can tell you that it was a meaningless death. And that's a big motivator for Tasha to do what she does. The ruining of good antagonists I put down because we've talked about how they do that with Q a little bit. They do that with the Borg as the series goes on, which isn't to say that the later Borg episodes aren't still interesting. They are. But the Borg go from being this, like, galaxy-consuming, unstoppable menace to being like, oh, this one's kind of cute, and his name is Hugh. And another one where...
No, it's 3 of 5, thank you.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then there's one where they become, like, basically a bunch of fucking, like, it's like a cult with lore at the top of it, you know? And it's, I don't know, like, they're still interesting episodes, but, like, it was just... if I'm going to see the Borg in an episode, I want more from that. And then the last point I had was, and I'm saying this tongue in cheek because I actually love this, but the sheer number of times Data or the holodeck almost kill everybody because they're malfunctioning.
Yeah.
And then everybody just forgives it and continues to hang out with Data and continues to use the holodeck.
But it's like built-in shore leave, right? Like you can go anywhere you want on the ship.
Right.
It's like every boss's dream is to have all the employees always there, always nearby where they can get back to work.
That's right.
Yeah, like when you lived in the company town, man.
Yeah.
You couldn't leave.
Exactly.
Sean?
So my Warp 9s, I'm going to start with the Borg. I always felt like those episodes got me to, like, they glued me to the seat because I was just, and I guess I'll go, all of my Warp 9s are really the antagonists, the other races in the show, the other, like, the ships, like the Romulan warbirds were super cool.
And they could cloak.
Yeah.
So badass.
I always loved that, and I loved the Klingons and the Klingon birds of prey, because they were just badass looking warships. And then Klingons went from being like this menace in the original series and the movies to being this really complicated, like, group of people that I thought was very fascinating.
Yeah.
I thought Worf was an interesting character, kind of clunky at times, but very interesting. And when they were getting into, like, the machinations of the Klingons and, like, all of that stuff, I thought was always deeply fascinating. So I really think that, like, just like the other technology, the other ships, the characters that are, like, always set up against the the Federation, they're not necessarily bad themselves. It's just the antagonists in that at that time I thought was kind of, except for the Borg, they're always bad.
Well, yeah.
And then I guess the lows would be the warp cores. What
Core
was it?
breaches.
Core breaches.
Yeah.
Which, is like once a month.
Yeah, they always fixed it with a modified tachyon pulse.
Yes,
right.
exactly.
That's right.
Oh, the tachyon field is off.
We've got to fire our phasers at our own warp core.
Yeah, their 18-year-old Wesley Crusher would figure it out, and Jordy would go, "I think you're onto something, Wes."
Yeah,
like that. Those moments, I guess, is like when the ship is saved by some fucking ridiculous mumbo jumbo or
technobabble.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or any time the deflector dish has to be used for whatever reason.
Never fucking works.
Yeah.
No.
But honestly, my biggest worst core of the warp. Whatever
core
breaches is the Troy-centric episodes. Anything that it puts Troy front and center, I'm just like, fuck this yawn fest. It's not good.
Yeah.
It's just not good.
Yeah, there's an episode where she loses her empathic powers, and it's supposed to be like, they want it to be like this devastating character study of someone losing the thing that defines them, and it's just not fun. It's not a good episode.
Pull it off.
No, not at all.
In my just searching around for what other people thought for worst episodes, that was top 5.
Was that mentioned?
Yeah, that was.
I agree with that.
So my best, I really appreciated how this was kind of optimistic towards humanity, right? So it wasn't that we were out there trying to conquer new worlds and steal other people's shit, circa the first 2,000 years of humanity's existence, but that we were out there just helping other races, trying to avoid wars, trying to make sure nobody got left behind, even if we accidentally spliced them in the transporter bay. Oops. Oops. But, it reminded me how much TV of the 90s was optimistic, especially the sci-fi that was out there back then. Yeah. Nowadays, sci-fi is well, fuck, we're fucked. Singularity's coming, humanity is dead, goodbye.
That's a good point.
But, it just made me think of the other TV shows that I watched back then, which I'll reference in the next episode. And
stay tuned.
That's right. Same bet. Nope. But even, things like West Wing had a more optimistic view of American humanity, and it's just nice to remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so much sci-fi prior to the 90s, and as you said, so much sci-fi post-90s is dystopian in nature. Mm-hmm. It's always about trying to figure out why everything's so fucked up and fix it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was this nice window. Gene Roddenberry is one of the people with the original Trek series, kind of wanted to imagine what would it look like if we figured all our shit out and now we were just dealing with what's out there in the stars.
And the 90s was also, especially the early 90s, that inherently it was going to be, it was just a positive vibe, I think, for the most part. It's interesting how prescient it was too about a lot of social issues that would come up that are things we're still dealing with, or that they didn't even see as this is far flung issues then. Now it's oh wow, it's happening. The one where Riker's trying to date that gender neutral person who says she's more female or whatever. And then this is a nightmare for today because then her society says, no, you cannot be gendered, and fucking man, could you see the friggin' Magtards getting all over that there?
Jesus.
God.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing they didn't exist back then.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Very true.
Then my core breaches, it's similar to Sean's. It's actually anytime there's a goddamn floating space cloud that causes problems.
Goddamn floating space cloud.
If you don't know what I'm talking about, just search YouTube for Star Trek Next Generation floating space cloud. You'll find it.
The space cloud trope shows up in so much great sci-fi parody. Futurama.
Yeah.
Welcome to Night Vale, which is a great podcast. Do you love Night Vale? Yeah, Night Vale is one of my favorites. So the glow cloud.
Yeah. Oh, I never thought about that. The glow cloud. Yeah. Oh, I always tied as. Yeah. I forgot how much I liked that series. That was one of the first podcasts I ever listened to.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
That's all. I haven't listened to it in a couple of years, but we should do that sometime. That would be a good one. Gosh. A podcast about a podcast.
Ooh,
Jesus.
That is some nerdy shit there, though.
That's meta.
That's for sure. All right. That wraps us up for this epic tome of a podcast.
How long did we go?
It's like 1 the early days.
21 minutes. This is our rookie days, which, by the way, is a great way to bring it back full circle because our 2-year anniversary, gents, is this month.
Oh, fuck.
It is this month.
Right.
That's right.
Go Nerds.
It's the paper anniversary. I hope you remember.
I got mine.
Hey!
I think we're going to have to split this into two. So...
I think so, for sure. We can branch off the... the awards and their own thing.
I'll do some kind of to be continued next generation thing in there. Yeah.
Make it a cliffhanger ending. Make the people wait for like a couple months and send it back out.
Will Nerds of the Republic come back?
The lamest return. Fire! Oh shit! I missed. Yeah.
Well,
essentially,
back to the drawing board.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's gonna take a Soonian noon.
Noonian
I'm
soon.
gonna just keep doing it. This is my thing. This is my trope. I am that person. To figure out that I'm a yes for this. Just watch it. Fuck all.
Yeah, even the bad shit. Watch it all. Take it all in stride.
Yeah, and the bad shit does not hold up well at all. But the good shit, rewatching these 8 episodes we watched, one of the things that kept striking me was just how well it still does hold up. Yeah. Like the special effects are obviously 90s, but they're not so horribly corny. And the episodes, the acting, the narratives, the themes they get into, it all still feels reasonably fresh.
I will say this though, I don't think those highs would be as high if not for the frequent lows either.
Yeah.
You have to take it as it is to really get the full Trek experience.
Yep. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And it's rare nowadays with my 3-minute attention span that I will not multitask while watching a show. Even like Stranger Things or the things that I love. The first watch I'll probably watch straight through, maybe get up, get popcorn or something like that. I did not leave the screen. I did not pick up another screen while watching these episodes. And it's not just because I respect y'all and your time. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, nowadays that is a serious compliment.
That is something, because my attention span is...
It's everyone, man.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So...
What's going on?
Yeah, exactly. Where am I? You're in your house, Adam. So that's it for us tonight. Stay tuned for what we're calling the 90s Nerdgasm, I guess. Maybe take 3 at this point, depending on how many episodes we break this one up into, where we each pick 3 sci-fi series from the golden age of sci-fi, still the 90s, some of the best decades of my life. And we're just going to riff on it and share what we've loved from that time. So until then, stay nerdy, y'all. Cheers.
Cheers.
Engage.
Oh, I got it in there. Make it stop.